Hey you, it's true! With a first look at the new Dark SSR Excalibur. You may have heard about the blade Excalibur before, but she's a woman now, so why not? Excalibur is also the first blood unit in Evertale in ages and introduces super moris to the playable battlefields. Her speed is pretty average at 416. Let's look at her active skills first. The Mori sweep gives 3 spirit, costs 70 time units and damages all enemies, adds 3 super Kuromoris to the very end of the allied reinforcements, and enrages Excalibur. So that is an additional 50% to Excalibur's attack on the next turn. The second skill is called the Sacred Blade, costs 2 spirit, also 70 time units, and damages 2 enemies. 500% damage, ignoring enemy damage reduction effects, and actually adding 1 super Kuromori to the very front of the allied reinforcements. However, it is only usable if there is already an ally Mori on the battlefield or a Mori in the very back of allied reinforcements. So it is kind of a blood skill, but no longer a requirement that somebody is actually sacrificed to use that skill. Her third skill is the most expensive in terms of spirit. It is called the Sword Storm. 3 spirit cost, 50 time units only, and dealing 600% damage to 1 enemy, adding, yet again, 1 super Kuromori to the very front of the allied reinforcements. So the first skill adds 3 super Kuromoris to the very back of reinforcements, the second and the third add 1 to the front. What's very nice about the Sword Storm is that it is an execute skill. It ignores any effects of non-boss enemies that would prevent the target from being defeated. However, it does not ignore damage reduction effects. The unlock condition on this one is that a non-conjured enemy on the battlefield has to be defeated or sacrificed by any source. This includes a kill that is potentially done with the Sword Storm itself, so that would mean it immediately unlocks again or stays unlocked kind of. And so there is definitely some potential for an execute chain. However, keep in mind 3 spirit cost and no armor ignore. Her last skill is an instant skill and actually gives 4 spirit. It is called Redemption Pulse and grants all enemies the Mega Poison status effect for 200 time units, purifying all allies. This is unlocked each time a Mori ally on the battlefield is defeated or sacrificed by any source. After use, the skill is locked again. So this is where the kind of super Kuromoris in the front of allied reinforcements become really interesting. Now we heard a lot about these super Kuromoris, so let's quickly cover what those are doing. They are really buffed Kuromoris. However, in terms of stats and speed, not so much. The speed very low at 84, so it will be rather rare to see them get a turn, especially because in their passive skills they are actually auto guard plus. So compared to other Moris which only have a 60% chance of guarding your units, these ones have a 100% chance, of course, not including enemies that can ignore guards. This is very helpful, and in today's meta also very important is the second passive, that is Ephemeral, which we already saw on Odin's Ravens. These super Kuromoris are never considered to be defeated by attacks and do not trigger any passive skills of other units whenever it is defeated or sacrificed. Additionally, these will be fully healed after each turn if they are not defeated, and on the other side they will instantly die to burn, super poison or mega poison on them. They also get dealt 2.5 times the normal amount of damage like Odin's Raven, and so very likely they will always only be able to buy you 1 turn or give you 1 time guarding action, which isn't too bad. And also doesn't require any awakenings on Excalibur, notably. And these super Kuromoris can not only poison like their normal Kuromori counterparts for 1 spirit and 100 time units, but they can also use a 1-time fallback to the very end of allied reinforcements, also giving 1 spirit. Now, besides the point that I already said that it's very rare that we're gonna see them actually get turns, with the kind of anti-entry effects that we saw on some meta units lately, like Cthulhu and Unicorn, it is questionable if that is actually something you wanna see, basically triggering another entry effect on your side instead of tanking another attack, which would also trigger an entry effect, just to be clear, but at least it would give one other ally target on your team a breather. Mentioning some of these meta units, let's see how her performance is on the battlefield against them while we cover her passives. The first one being Awakened Blade. Excalibur comes with a hold ground. She heals for 10% of max HP every time an ally hits an enemy with an attack. Another way of healing 10% for her is whenever an ally Mori enters the battlefield from reinforcements. Notably, this doesn't have to be a super Mori. However, to be fair, there are very few good blood Mori units to speak of right now, so not immediately relevant. Plus, while these two are nice to have, they are still not seemingly overpowered, given that it's just 10% of max HP. Yes, she does have to hold ground and not an endure, which is probably why you want to be careful there, giving her too much easy ways to heal herself. But on the other hand, she doesn't have any active kind of way to heal herself, as you saw in all her 4 active skills. Only purification. Luckily, this is not where her survival passives end, because whenever a non-sleeping ally gets the turn, she will gain stealth and a stealth shield at the end of that turn. So this is a very, very handy purify, which will pretty much always trigger unless you are running against a sleep team. However, there is still more to come in terms of survival when we cover the second passive that is called Sword and Shields. Here we have a very nice entry and dawn effect. So she adds 2 super Kuromoris to the very front and 2 to the very end of ally reinforcements. Again, no passive scaling here, so something that could already be very helpful at 1 copy. However, given that this second passive needs a limit break to activate, you do have to level her to level 80, not a great level 1 unit like somebody like Storm King Arthur. Excalibur comes with a permanent 50% damage reduction from attacks, as is becoming pretty standard nowadays and is kind of necessary to hold out against powerhouses like Cthulhu. If there is a Mori on the battlefield on her team or at the end of allied reinforcements, her attack is also increased by 25%. If both are the case, then she actually gains 75% damage reduction from attacks, very powerful, and its attack is increased by 50% instead, so basically a perma enrage at that point. However, it does not stack, so this is not something where we will see plus 100% damage or a doubling of damage that she deals, given that she can also enrage herself with the first skill. Now, if Excalibur is below 50% of max HP at the end of a turn, and there is a Mori at the very end of allied reinforcements, that Mori will be sacrificed, so there is still some sacrifice going on in her skill set, but this is pretty much the only one. And all allies will be purified, healed for 30% of max HP and become enraged. So quite a nice effect. Notably, this does only heal Excalibur for 30% of max HP as well, so this might trigger or need to trigger 2 times in a row until she gets back to above 50% of max HP. This part of her passive can definitely come in handy sometimes. Again, this does not specify that it has to be a super Kuromori at the end of reinforcements, which is nice because the normal Moris are much weaker than these super Kuromoris. Then again, I assume that these super Moris will be much more common going forward than these normal Moris. Again, no really great unit remaining that is still this kind of normal blood user. The original Dark King Arthur was the last one there. So that are all of Excalibur's skills. We can look at a little battle preview here, courtesy of Anonymous yet again. And what is very interesting, since we just saw the introduction of Tristan, who is kind of a hard counter to Storm King Arthur, is that Excalibur actually seems to take the heat off of Storm King Arthur and take the kind of disabling pulse that sends her back somewhere into the reinforcements, which is arguably a very good thing because Storm King Arthur benefits much more from staying in front and especially keeping the kind of King's Dawn passive active, while Excalibur, I think, doesn't mind to get back to the reinforcements, especially because it will trigger another event of 4 super Kuromoris being added once she enters again. And the cool thing is this should already work at 1 copy. So if you are somebody who is maining Storm King Arthur and is having a lot of trouble with the newly introduced Tristan, then teaming SKA up with this new Excalibur might take the heat off and give you some free 100% guards that are ephemeral, so not triggering any good passives on the opposing side, not unlocking savage skills either. So while there is a use case to have Excalibur in front at dawn, arguably her strengths lie more in being a reinforcement and potentially also coming in quite late into the battle. Given that she is a generalist unit, she can work in a lot of different teams. Sleep and burn not included. Sleep because her attacks with up to 4 targets wake up enemies. Burn because she's very vulnerable to stun and burn and poison. Well, I mean, that makes it sound a little worse than it is, but I do think she is having a bit of trouble because, unfortunately, the way her passives, the kind of healing passives with the moris in the back work is that this is only triggered if she survives a turn. So if the hold ground is basically deactivated by a burn or a poison status effect, specifically poison more concerningly, she will just die and the moris in the back will not save her from that. So that is slightly disappointing, I have to say. It is balanced a bit out by the fact that she could have very, very high armor. So yeah, we will have to see what her impact on the battlefields will be. Right now I see a lot of value in her as a 1 copy pull, just limit breaking her once and using her as a pseudo guard and for her actual guards that she brings to the battlefield. At full awakening she brings a lot to the table as well, given the much higher stats and that she does have an execute skill on board. However, I just listed some of her vulnerabilities, so that is why I'm not 100% sure yet if she is gonna make an entry into the very top meta builds of today. Let me know what you think of her in the comments. Stay tuned for more on Excalibur on this channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to become a true carrot. And as always, thanks for watching.